so freeing to be able to receive affirmation, but not wrap my identity around that affirmation. That gifting is not who I am. That's just one little gift that God's given me. It means a lot. It encourages me, but that is not who I am.
We create really this false wall of expectations that aren't really there. We see it in our mind.
I find myself continuing to sip on it a little bit.
Yeah. It's kind of like bad gas station coffee. It's a rough back taste.
It bites going down.
It really does.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Armchair Authentic, a podcast with Rhett and Justin, trying to come alongside you, helping you fulfill your God assignments through real conversations about real life with real people.
You know, I love that you can expect things of people and people can expect things of me. But did you know you can take it so far and you can actually get trapped or paralyzed within a false set of expectations, like expecting the sweet and savory tones of an Italian roast espresso, only to get a crappy cup of coffee.
Yeah, some of the things we talk about today, all the way from tennis to golf to what people have spoken over us, how to work through some identity issues, if you will, when it comes to just trying to figure out life and who we are and who God's called us to be. So we hope that you enjoy this conversation. But before we get into it, can I just take a moment and just simply say thank you to every single one of you who have taken the time to rate and review the podcast. It means so much to us, but more than that, it really is a great way that we can serve people who have yet to join us on this journey. In fact, if you're having a lot of fun on this journey with us, would you take some time to comment on Facebook or Instagram at Armchair Authentic, or follow us on Twitter, or what we now call X, at Armchair Auth Pod. But more importantly, something Justin and I, you and I have been talking about this for a while, we sure would like to create some content and some podcasts around the things that you're thinking about and the questions that you're currently asking right now. And the best way that we know how to serve you and to create content that helps you is to hear from you. Would you be so kind to email us at info@armchairauthentic.com. That's info@armchairauthentic.com. Remember to subscribe. We cannot wait to jump into this conversation, Justin. It's going to be great.
Yeah, so just sit back and relax and enjoy your cafe infusion, your edible ink, your coffee tree juice, your warm brew, your bean oil, your perfect cup of coffee.
I'm taking a sip of this coffee.
I said we do it together.
That Justin made. What was the date on this coffee?
January 2024.
To give some context, I don't drink a ton of coffee at the house. And so the last cup of coffee we made was
when we
3 months ago.
The podcast.
6 months ago. So in an effort to record this episode, we are commencing it with a couple of month-old coffee. Here
Cheers.
we go.
Cling.
Yeah, and let's take a sip and see what happens. It's
all right. It's okay.
It's okay. It's a little.
It's kind of like bad gas station coffee when you're driving on a late night and they don't have the manpower to keep the coffee going all day, and it's just kind of a little bit of coffee.
It's got a couple of layers of black, stitched burntness to it.
Yeah,
but I find myself continuing to sip on it a little bit.
Yeah, it's a rough back taste.
It bites going down.
It really does.
I don't think I'm going to partake on this anymore. I think my sweet tea is actually going to win this one. So,
man, I'm gonna keep drinking it.
You keep drinking it. As I look at this beautiful Magnolia Market cup, it's like, oh man, this coffee, it's got whipped cream, it's got vanilla in it.
I did do the Justin
and
special.
It looks so good. And I'm like, go to sip out of this beautiful cup, but it's full of nast. It's burnt nast, couple of old, and I'm sipping it again. What am I doing?
I mean, it's so true. We're just going back for more.
Oh,
I like it.
Do you?
I like it. Even not liking it, I like it because it's comfort. It's coffee.
It's
you
comfort.
know me.
It's
I'm
coffee.
I'm a coffee fanatic, but I'm not a bougie only kind of coffee guy. I love bougie coffee, but when I take a road trip,
Yep.
I don't stop at the coffee shops like the Starbucks, the whatevers. I will stop at gas station coffees. It's just something I love to do. Matter of fact, this morning on my way to the podcast, I stopped at a gas station I love getting coffee from, and they just do it right.
You do like the bougie gas stations?
I do.
And the ones that feel like Starbucks.
It's
which
still
is,
got to be good.
But
It's still got to be a good gas station.
yeah, let's preface, like, if you're from the Midwest or the Southwest, you're probably familiar with QT, the Quick Trip. They're starting to make their way this way. In fact, there's one about 15, 20 minutes down the street from my house. It's out of the way. I don't go to that one. I would love to because it's incredible, which is a little bit out of the way. And that's a bougie gas station. But then there's another gas station in the South that's taking over. I don't know if it's just a Southern thing, but Justin turned me onto this the other day. It's called MapCo or Quest.
MapCo.
MapCo.
It's not MapQuest.
It's not MapQuest.
That's GPS.
Let's not get that confused.
It's MapCo.
Oh yeah, so MapCo, and it's like a Starbucks. It's like a Starbucks met Target met QT.
Yeah.
Like in Target, in that just how everything is aligned and in rows and nice and neat and orderly.
Yeah, they keep
It's
it clean.
nice. Yeah, they keep it clean.
I like a clean gas station
Clean gas station.
because it brings a reputation with it. For me, with a big family on a road trip, we stop by clean gas stations.
Yeah, it's a big reason why Buc-ee's is a favorite place for people to go.
Buc-ee's is the greatest.
Yeah, and if you don't, for those who are our listeners, I know we've got a broad audience from people from the Northwest, the West. Buc-ee's is a shopping gas station experience. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like Target, Walmart, like kind of be like a Fred Meyer's, but gas station. For those in the Northwest, Midwest, like a Fred Meyer's gas station, but like it's got 100 and something pumps. The place is insane. Like Google Buc-ee, like it's got this incredible like cult following to this gas station.
Yeah,
and they're all over the place. Depending on the day of traffic, it could take you 30 minutes to get in, 30 minutes to get out, just because of how insanely massive this place is.
Yeah,
it's unlike anything else I've ever seen.
Great fudge. Go get that sample. You got to get the right person, the right man or woman who's operating that.
Their cinnamon rolls are good too, man.
They're generous. They'll give you the samples. If not, they kind of look at you with that snooty look, the kind of wrinkled nose, like, Stop mooching for the free fudge.
Anything you could possibly imagine to throw the word Buc-ee's on. In fact, I kid you not, the last time I was in a Buc-ee's, it was like Disney World. They don't have Mickey Mouse, but they've got this big, I don't know, is it a beaver? What is this thing?
It's Buc-ee the Beaver.
It's Buc-ee the Beaver with like the buck-tooth beaver, and it's insane. People are lining up in droves to take pictures with Buc-ee the Beaver in the middle, and it's like, are you kidding me right now? This is insane.
As a follower of the cult of Buc-ee's,
I mean,
you're insulting me right now.
No, I love
that's
it.
What we Buc-eeites do. We take pictures with the beaver. Okay?
Oh, man. I mean, like, oh, my God, Buc-ee the Beaver. Let's go take a picture.
We've invested. We got the plushy toys around the house.
Are you serious?
It's the real deal.
Down home barbecue, like brisket, cinnamon rolls, fudge, like anything you could possibly put into the store, it's there. The marketing, the advertising, the Buc-ee the Beaver mascot. I mean, dude.
Like, barbecue on the Bobby. That's what we're talking about.
And the customer service is legit. I mean, like they're so cool. They're so nice. They're so, can I help you with this? Oh yeah, it's my pleasure. And all these things.
And what got us on the topic was their coffee is phenomenal.
I wouldn't know.
It is. We're going to go there one day and record our podcast live at Buc-ee's.
Coming to you live from Buc-ee's Armchair Authentic with Buc-ee the Beaver. Hi, Buc-ee.
That sounds like Buc-ee. That sounded like Buc-ee married Popeye, and they had a child.
I don't know. How do beaver talk? I don't know.
With a slight bit of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I mean, like, I don't know. It would take me some character development to get into the right voice there. Oh, we need one of our buddies who is a voiceover guy. Like, we need him to come in and do some Buc-ee the Beaver stuff.
I bet he would. We did have a good lunch today, though.
But we did, yes.
We had some cold cuts. It was like a charcuterie board that we ate as we were really getting set up for today. Compliments of you,
Compliments
Rhett.
Of the Moody High School tennis parents.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and to give you some context on that, so my son at 16 years old now, he is on the tennis team. If you've been a parent of any type of sports, you know how it works. Anytime there's a big event, there was a tournament, a sectionals, this is where all the people in our section of the state come together and they battle it out to try to go to state. I wish I had some good news. I wish we could say, yeah, we made it to state, but we didn't, because this is a rebuild year they lost like 14 seniors last year. So we're rebuilding from freshmen and sophomores right now. Anyway, long story short, go to sectionals, went and spent all day in the sun, set up a campsite, and, got the group text from all the parents trying to figure out what to do. And the leader in me rose up, was like, hey, I got this, and created assignments. The next thing I know, I'm bringing my grill down there. We're setting up tents. We're setting up base camp. Got the signs going on.
You say leader.
Yeah.
Which you're a great leader, but it was really more of you channeling this OCD side of you who saw a group thread of a web of different people suggesting we could do this and that and this and that. And you could not just live in that. You had to do something about that.
Yeah. I've never been in prison before, but I have been in a group text. You're seeing a lot of suggestions, and listen, like all these parents, they're amazing. And so there just wasn't anybody really kind of like organizing it. And so I was like, okay, Lord, I sat there for a minute and I was like, I know I've got the time. I can do this. I don't know if I really want to. I want to see if anybody else steps up. But after about the 30th text that came through of, what if this or what if that? What if I do this? Well, I was like, all right, guys, here's what we're going to do. I know how challenging this can be. All of you are absolutely amazing. But since I have a little bit of time at this moment, I will go ahead and organize this for us. And within 30 minutes, we had the whole thing organized, put together. And I used a part of my administration gift that I did not know I had, but the OCD, yes. So we put together this event. All the parents were very grateful, and we had a great time. So I had a ton of leftovers. I guess it's the joy and the beauty of, you throw this thing together and all the parents are gone and you're packing up, right? And I'm like, well, all right, we got the charcuterie fruit and everything. And so Justin and I, we had all the charcuterie board out. We were good. We took a little bit more time than I would probably should. We were just kind of enjoying the food this morning.
Yeah, we were talking about bougie. We were a little bougie. We were preparation for a podcast today.
We were bougie.
That was fun.
Yeah, but my son, if you're interested, he won his first round singles, lost in the second round singles, first round of doubles. They won that, lost in the second round. But you know how it is when you're seated low, you play pretty much the number one teams at first, and so that's kind of what we did. And a great learning experience. Amazing to see my son grow so much into tennis, and it reminded me of our days, man, growing up around the tennis court, what I call the prison court. I think in another other episode, because the fence was literally, the net was literally a fence.
Well, I remember. What even first drew us out there. We lived in these apartments, and there was just kind of a gang of these kids who would hang out, and they were very bullyish. And I would always try to avoid anything like conflict like that, especially if I'm going to get pain on my body. And so I kept noticing how they would treat other people. So I would try to avoid them and go the other way. I noticed that they would hang out on those tennis courts. So one weekend, I'm at my grandmother's house and we're downstairs. She's cleaning up stuff in her basement and she starts pulling out some of these tennis rackets. I said, what are you going to do with these? And she said, you can have them. And so I took them. I was so proud of them, these awesome tennis rackets. I didn't know anything about tennis, but now I had a common bond. So next time I'm walking in the apartments, these kids are coming and I don't have anywhere else I can go. So just as a protective instinct, I jump in and find a common thread. And as they get closer, I say, hey, guys, guess what? I actually got some tennis gear. Would love to play sometime. And it calmed them down. And they said, oh, cool. Yeah, come meet us on the court. I said, all right, man, I'll be there. They make their way to the court. I go home to get all my stuff. And if you can picture, like back in 80s films, every time the superheroes or the fighters getting ready, it has the scene where it shows them putting on their gear of every part. I mean, that was me getting my new racket. Oh, man, yeah. Arms this, boom, boom, headband, and my socks. Pull them up with the stripe and my shoe. And then I got my racket, and then I went to the tennis court. And as I'm walking out there, they just freeze. And in my mind, I'm thinking, they know what's going on. And I'm getting closer, and they just stop playing, and they look.
Because this is early 90s.
Yeah,
right?
This was 1991.
And at this point, context at that point in our life, like technology had come a long way with tennis rackets at that point.
Yeah. Evidently it had, Rhett. Because I walked out on that court, and they looked at each other, and it was like dead silence until they fell to the ground, screaming hysterically, laughing at me, pointing at me with every comeback you can imagine. And I finally started getting things together when one of them yells out like, "Oh my gosh, Justin, 1970 called and they want their racket back." Man, I just started sitting there realizing, oh goodness, and I'm embarrassed. They're laughing. All I can do is just turn around and I walk off to the background noise of just hysteria. So I decided to go home. I put the racket up. I'm embarrassed.
Well, because the tenant, give some context. It was a late 60s, early 70s racket.
Yes.
It was completely made out of wood.
Yeah.
It probably had about a 2-foot long handle with probably, 7-8 inch diameter or, head on it.
I didn't know what an original Martina Navratilova racket
It was
meant.
completely made out of wood. And the frame, you probably pulled it out, was a wooden frame.
It was.
With 4 bolts and nuts on it to slide it into the wooden frame. And I don't know where I was as your friend at this moment. I have no idea. Like, you're talking about this story, and I'm like, I would have saved you some embarrassment on this one at least. Not because I knew tennis, but I was like, bro, I had the same type of tennis racket somewhere in all the clutter crap that I had in my house that my dad had when he was, in his 70s, right? So they railed you for your tennis racket. It's what
hurt.
kids do. It hurts. It's painful.
Hurt. I took my skateboard, as you and I were skateboarders, and I took my $20. I skateboarded over to Walmart, and I bought me a Pro Kinex, which...
How old were we at the moment? Take me back.
We had to be 13 years old.
Okay, 12, 13-ish, somewhere in there,
12,
14.
13 years old. That's if you want to age range us. And I go get that. And yes, I learned later that's not much in a tennis racket. But where it was from that 1960 special, it was awesome. And I ended up dedicating my life to being the best tennis player I could. And somewhere along the lines, you start jumping in and you buy kind of a $20 racket as well. We go out there.
Yeah, I don't even remember the first time that I was at the tennis court with you and those guys. I don't know. I'm trying my best to recollect the memory and to go back and open those memory banks. And I just feel like I just remember us always out there playing with all those guys.
We were.
But it wasn't the case. Maybe I don't remember.
Well, I had to establish dominance.
I think that was it. And then you brought me along at that point.
And whipped them. Took over alpha male lead from their little ringleader.
Yeah.
And we all became best friends.
Isn't it interesting? Yeah, I was just sitting there thinking about, whether we were 13 or 12 at the moment of just kind of living our life. Most of this was probably in the summer, we wouldn't have been working jobs or dads were doing what they were doing, but we riding our skateboards to Walmart. I mean, that was probably 2 or 3 miles away. I mean, who does that anymore as kids? It's just a different environment. I mean, for us to ride our skateboards across the Parkway East, down the little corridor, work our way through a massive parking lot, carry our skateboards into Walmart, looking like thugs probably.
Oh, yeah.
Going to the tennis racket place, and I'm sure the employees were like, what are they about to steal today? Our eyes are on you.
They were.
We're picking out, probably still talking like this through our teeth a little bit, a little bit of lift. Believe it or not, I had one of those. A little bit lift, a little high, and then get our tennis rackets and then go try to learn how to. I think that's not knowing how to play. Mm-hmm. The only type of sports we had at that time were just what we saw on TV. There was nothing TiVo'd or DVR'd it was having to watch ESPN Sports live in the moment.
Oh, yeah.
Andre Agassi was huge.
He was my favorite.
McEnroe was massive.
Pete Sampras.
These guys,
Jimmy Connors.
Goodness. And so we saw that and we mimicked that and we went out and just tried to teach ourselves how to play.
We did. And we started formulating our own tournaments, the TGEIC, the Twin Gates East Invitational
Because
Classic.
we can't just go out and have a good time.
No,
we got to level up at some point. We're like, all right.
There will be brackets. Everything will have a bracket and we're going to see who the champion is. That's just how life was for us.
Well, male dominance, the alpha male, we're all out there trying to earn honor and respect. And we do. We fight our way through it. And next thing we know, I don't know how great we were, but I feel like we were decent.
Yeah.
To where we were beaten.
We're on our way.
And we even created our own little doubles team.
Yeah, we did.
I don't think we want to say the name of that on the air right now. I'm sorry, but we'll
maybe a future episode.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, thinking back to some of the names, but we did.
We took care of business. We did. We were doubles team, me and you.
We did, and that was so funny, man. Because we can almost imagine how we're thinking. We didn't even have to really communicate much because it was like, I know you're going there, I'm going here, and we're going to take care of business.
Oh man, those jokers were going down. That's just kind of how it was. And
oh man,
I do remember some of the refreshing times of we'd take a break and you could just skateboard or walk over to Pizza Hut. Do you remember Pizza Hut?
Oh, man.
In the early days.
Yeah, it looked like a hut. And speaking, I mean, like literally, you'd walk in, you had a host, they'd take you to the table, they'd bring the menu out, and they had, would you like the salad bar? Would you like the,
and that's how they treated us 12-year-olds.
Oh man, deep dish pizza, baby. And it was like brought out in like a hot skillet deep dish style.
And if you came at lunch when we did $3.99, you'd get that whole pizza buffet. Do you remember that?
Oh, I remember that.
And then you could get, when you get done with the pizza, you got like the cinnamon pizza. It was like dessert.
Oh, yeah. And I remember those little, what was the hot pepper cover and the Parmesan cheese things they would bring out. Oh, yeah. And I'll never forget. I can't remember what joke we played it on somebody. But we would barely, I do not suggest this to anybody listening. This is
awesome.
Don't do as we do, you know, like, but we can talk about it. But we were so sneaky. We're like, let's take that top off, loosen it up enough so somebody's pizza comes out and they put it and the whole thing dumps right on their pizza. And then I would say we weren't Christians at that time, so the language that would then follow, in fact, the fights over the pizza and the managers being like, all right, guys, y'all going to have to take this outside, you know.
I just remember that whoever was the butt of the joke, just the pause when the whole thing would fall and fill up an entire slice of pizza. And it was just like, they just froze to think about what just happened.
And you could see the blood pressure run to this white boy's face. Just turning from white to red, our friend. Yeah.
And then we would go back and settle it on the court.
Oh, we would. Yeah.
Well, and I remember one time, one of the guys got a really nice racket for his, I guess it was Christmas or something. And that really opened us to realize, wait, there's better equipment out there.
And I would have never thought that it would actually make you play better, but it's amazing how it actually does.
You get what you pay for in a lot of things. Being a guitar player, I always played just with average guitar, and it was great.
Yeah.
But when I got a really nice guitar, I felt like I leveled up.
Well, the quality of strings, not only on a guitar, but on a tennis racket were huge for us. I mean, we went from those cheap little nylon type strings to something that was very significant.
Well, we had the mall, in Birmingham. It was called Century Plaza. And, our parents would drop me and Rhett off for hours, and we'd spend the day. And I remember we would go to Hibbett Sporting Goods and just glance at the rackets. And you knew you get to the nice rackets because there weren't strings on them.
Yeah.
It was just like the head. And when you bought it, you would then have your custom strings put on. And you put it to the tightness according to your playing style, whether your spin, whether your power, whatever it is. And for my birthday, major day, I wanted a new tennis racket because we had leveled up. I was playing for the USTA by now. Mm-hmm. And my mom ended up saying she'd get me a racket. I don't think she knew what she was getting into because I wanted this one so bad.
I will never forget our racket. They were like $250, if not $300.
It was expensive.
And this is the early 90s. Way before inflation. I mean, like it was
the elite.
I can't imagine how much they are now.
Oh my goodness. It was such a nice racket. Yeah. But I remember this. We're standing in line and my mom looks at it. She pays for it. When they said how much it costs, she just, really made, a reaction to that I didn't expect. And I just remember it. She turned around and said, Justin, you do know there's no money that's being put aside for you for college. We don't have that. I live with my dad. And she's saying, your dad's not going to be able to pay your way through college. And what she was getting at is, this money I'm spending right now, she said, this better lead to a scholarship. I just remember in that moment, I went from having so much fun to all of a sudden it was this new pressure that hit me of, oh, this isn't about fun anymore. This is about my future. And it's like I still went and had fun with the racket, but it's amazing how that new mindset got stuck in my head.
Wow.
And I began to buy into that, which fast forward, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
My dad was awesome and he completely... Yeah, I was blessed to be one of those people who my dad completely paid for college. So thank you, Dad. But that was just, as we've talked before, my mom, who was going through her own stuff then, was just dealing with something mental that was just a reaction she gave. But it was enough as being her son, very young and impressionable. As we talked before, I took words from an authority like it must be truth because an authority said it. Yeah. And I began to have a fresh expectation that I didn't know existed before.
Well, we don't have the ability to really comprehend or understand sometimes through an adult's perspective of what they're dealing with and whatever they're dealing with, whether mentally or physically, whatever emotions they're having to filter through. Obviously, that was a lot of stress for your mom at that point. She's wanting to do a good thing, but she's also speaking probably truth from hurt in just whatever she's going through. And just those words are so powerful. I know we talked about this in another episode, but Proverbs 18:21 always remind us that the power of life and death is in the tongue. So we have the power to speak life, which produces fruit in life, whether that's encouragement, hope, but we also have the ability with our words to speak death, and not in the essence of like, you're going to die, but like the negativity side that she didn't understand at that moment. Yeah. Speaking to you was, hey, look, man, I'm about to put you in a mental prison to where you're going to have to like really go performance based and feel the pressures of adulthood sooner than you need to, in a way that really kind of brought what was joy maybe into a moment of, oh my gosh, now there's that responsibility, that weight, that heaviness. And now it's no longer really fun. Now it's like, I got to do something with this. Yeah. You obviously worked through that. I would have never known that. I'm glad you're sharing that, because it's interesting. That opens up a whole new dynamic, especially us as fathers speaking to our kids. And sometimes, because she might not even thought twice about it. You know, I'm just trying to make him understand that this is a big investment. Because think about it, $250 then might be relevant to $800 now. And when you don't have that, and you're like, hey, if I do this, by God, you better do something with it and make the most of this. You know?
And to even look what people are going through when people say things to you, it can help you so much more if you can look from the mindset of where they're coming from. And I don't mean that they're right, but what have they been through that makes them react the way they're reacting? And it can help us as we process it, because like you said, I would have never left Hibbett that day, Hibbett Sporting Goods, sad. I felt a little pressure, but man, I mean, I got over that quick, and we went out and enjoyed tennis for the next couple of years playing hard. But it would, at different times, pop back up as just that foreign voice in the back of my head, just like so many other instances. So the goal, I don't think, is to say, hey, parents, be careful what you say. Like, you're going to have to live with the consequence. We do have to live with the consequence of our words, but we don't need to be paralyzed, too nervous to say anything, because it takes both sides. I had to go through a healing process, right? We don't have to be on pins and needles, but it still is the fact that just because something has said to you, you don't have to carry it like we can so easily carry it, because we create really this false wall of expectations that aren't really there, but we see it in our mind.
Yeah, I agree. There definitely needs to be a healthy responsibility and accountability that we have, especially as parents, to be very mindful of what does come out of our mouth, you know, of how it can be carried, but not to live on eggshells as everything that we say is going to affect somebody in a negative way, for sure. But I do think it is interesting how that carried a lot of weight for you, and I would have never known. And maybe that's why today you still have that racket almost in, I would say, pretty mint condition, and still play with it today, because you have taken care of that thing like nobody's business. And I can't say so much for the racket that I spent, I think, $275 on. Or let me rephrase that my dad spent $275 on, because I had a temper. Like, the only emotion I ever knew as a kid was anger. And now looking back, obviously with the trauma that I've gone through, I didn't know how to express emotions. But I'm at that point now to where it's like, wow, everything that I knew how to express came through anger. And when I was mad or frustrated, I took it out on anything in my way, and that was my racket. Yeah. And I took that racket, and it saw the dark side of Rhett. When I hit a bad shot or when I lost, I mean, I beat the mess out of that thing.
It saw the concrete, for sure.
Oh, it did. And so it is interesting to see the difference in how I didn't really take care of that racket the way I should have, and the responsibility.
But your point, I've never even thought about that, Rhett. That is so true. It's in my car right now. Yeah. And I mean, we played the other day, and I've taken such great care of it. And that's an interesting perspective, that there has been this thought of, I cannot let that one go. Yeah. I need to make sure I'm getting every penny out of that racket.
And it just a different way of, you know, like mine was a gift, and I appreciate the gift, but I didn't have enough, I guess, appreciation for that gift that I should have. And that's on me and my, you know, lack of maturity at that time. Of course, I'm not that way now, and I'm definitely stewarding things, maximizing stewardship in every moment of my life according to God's word, and I'm experiencing the blessing from that. But man, you know, that is interesting. Even when you were talking about your mom putting pressure on you with tennis, for me, that was golf. And it wasn't really spoken in a way, but it was kind of assumed. I started playing golf when I was like 7, 8 years old, just hanging out at the golf course with my grandparents, and they were military and retired military, if that gives you any context. So they were memberships at golf courses. And even though my dad did the best that he did, whenever we, would go visit our grandparents, I felt like, wow, these, they're millionaires, they weren't, but it felt like it. And so I was on the golf course on the side, and I was pretty good at sports and just the things that I would get into. And golf was one of those things for me. And next thing I knew, it turned from playing golf for enjoyment because of something fun to, Rhett, you're really good at this, and I think you should really consider this, because if you do, you'll get a scholarship to college, and that opened up a door for maybe the PGA Tour, and you could be like Fred Couples and, all the guys that you're seeing on TV right now. Back in the day, it was Greg Norman and all these, Payne Stewart, and, I'm dating myself a little bit with golf, but like that was and all of a sudden my dream became their dream, and then I found myself just in this place of, I'm not really enjoying this because I feel like I'm playing it for somebody else's expectation of me rather than me just doing this for fun.
One thing that should exist more and more, I don't think we can get enough of it, but it's affirmation. Affirmation is huge. We need affirmation in our life, but with every wonderful thing, I believe that's from the Lord, but from every beautiful gift and virtue from the Lord, there's also a shadow side to it. And so when you think about affirmation, there's also this other side, as we're talking about expectation. And so you can also be affirmed, and what you have to watch out for is this other spectrum kicks in where it's not just affirmation, now it's almost identification. So you begin to be identified by some of those areas that are affirmed in your life, where instead of your value just being grounded in who you are, you begin to stick towards some of those affirmative thoughts that have been handed towards you, and you almost become that. I remember one time, and it was such a gracious compliment that I received. I've always had a gift of really with people and helping people, and what it's produced are great teams, healthy teams, healthy cultures, if you will. And I remember it being called out one time in front of a big staff, and it said, hey guys, now Justin Bradshaw, if you want to learn how to be a team builder, Justin Bradshaw is your team builder. And it was such a wonderful compliment. And even in the moment, I was grateful. But then now you have to look how you begin to walk after that, because now I'm dealing with people, having coffee with people. But in the back of my mind, it's like, okay, remember, make sure you build a team with this.
Yeah.
And it shifted. It's like the byproduct used to be a team was being built. Now it's like I started going in to build a team, and now I need to make sure I'm doing it the way that I did. And the shadow side can quickly emerge. And that's in the area of, yes, leading a team or doing something like that. But this can happen in so many ways. I was listening to something interesting from Candace Cameron Bure.
Yeah.
From Full House.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's Kurt Cameron's sister, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right, they're brother and sister, which fun fact, and it's just fun. I ran into Kirk Cameron one time in the airport.
Did you really?
Yeah, dude. It was, this was.
You didn't share that story with me.
No, it was a fun little thing. I was just transitioning between flights. This was a couple years back. And I'm sitting on that little train in Dallas-Fort Worth that connects the terminals, and it's me, and then it's Kirk Cameron on the other end, and it was just in a couple of his friends, and I'm like, there is no way I can let this slide. And so I came over, and I said, man, I don't mean to bother you, but I said, Kirk Cameron, right? He said, yeah. And I said, man, I'm just proud of what you're doing, steps of faith in Hollywood and all this stuff, and just way to go. And he started talking, and we were talking about church and different things, and then at the end, I was like, bro, I said, I know this is so cliche. And I said, it won't hurt my feelings if you say no, but dude, can we get a picture together? He's like, yeah. He was so cool. He was so down to earth. He represented Christ in a great way. We had just a brother connection. It wasn't even stardom, but it was just like brothers in Christ, being able to connect. It was a really cool experience. So whether you love, hate, agree, disagree, like the man is real. He loves Jesus. And he's just a cool dude.
Well, let's just call it out. Let me just call it out. If you hate him, you got issues.
Come on, man. Seriously.
So moving on. No, I'm kidding. That's awesome. He's doing great work for the Lord, but also his sister is too.
Yeah, she
Candace
is.
Cameron Bure. Me and my wife were big time like Christmas movies. So she went from Hallmark Channel to Great American Family. Great Christmas movies. I love the productions. But she mentioned in something I was listening to, an interview, when she got into acting, she was going to meet with an agent, but it really wasn't just for her. It was actually for their sister, Brooke. They have a sister named Brooke, and she was the gifted one. She was very happy, cheerleader, full of energy, that people had already put on her like, you're the star.
Yeah.
You're this. You're going to be the next whatever. And so she was going to meet with an agent about acting, and the rest of the family followed. And there's, I think, 4 of them all together. So you have Kirk, we know Candace.
Yeah.
There's Brooke that I just said, and there's another name, I can't remember her name. They all go meet with the family or the agent almost with this mentality. Brooke's a shoe-in, but let's just see if we can actually get into.
Yeah.
They end up taking everybody but Brooke.
Wow.
And that's what got Kirk, Candace, all into the entertainment industry. And that was just such an interesting story because she is later given her gifts in entertainment, but it's not to be kind of that TV star, but it's some of the behind the scenes stuff that it wouldn't be what it is without those wirings that you have as a person and as gift set. But so many times, whether it's good, the compliments, you can take something that somebody said and it shifts from being just an affirmation of, wow, that was kind and gracious, and maybe even leading to a direction that we let a shadow side kick in and we become defined by the good or the bad of something said.
Well, yeah, I mean, because the affirmation is there to encourage you, but you can receive that encouragement, but if you're not careful, you can begin to identify yourself and begin to like really have identity crisis on, well, I guess, I mean, so-and-so said this about me. I guess this is my lane I'm supposed to run in the rest of my life. You know, it's kind of, well, Rhett, you're a worship leader and you're gifted in leading worship. And so you're one of the best worship leaders ever. And this is all we see in you. So it's like, but okay. And then I had to go down that road of, why are there all these other gifts in me? But yet I guess it's what I'm supposed to do the rest of my life, just lead worship. And I had to come to that fruition of my own self. When I'm not, I mean, yes, I'm Rhett. I love God and I'm a Christ follower. Music is just a part of what I get to do, but it's not who I am. Yeah. There is a plethora, variety, if you will, of just different gifts in me that I can use. And not one is greater than the other. They all kind of work together. And I do think it's interesting. Not many people kind of talk about this, but you can really get pigeonholed from great people who speak into your life, affirming you in a moment. And it's easy to walk in that and think, well, I guess it's my lot in life. And it's a good thing, not a bad thing, but I guess, I mean, let's run with this.
Yeah, you take their snap picture that they saw in that moment, and if they have influence in your life, they only have that picture, and you put everything you are into that picture when there's so much more. That's why, as we talked in, the podcast before, when I had stepped out of a place I had belonged in for so long, that snap picture may actually serve a great purpose to operate in that unique wiring and that unique gifting. But it doesn't mean you lay everything else down, because then you get into the fact you are responsible to steward the assignments he's placed in your life, which might be that little picture, but it's also so much more.
Oftentimes, as I'm sitting here thinking through this and even filtering it through the lens of my own life, I'm literally thinking there has been times in my life where I long to just have a man, if you will, or somebody of authority that I would look to be able to speak a word of affirmation in my life. And when they would, I would just wrap my identity in that and be like, oh man, yes, I got that affirmation. They see that it's in me. So I'm just going to continue to run this lane. But the problem is I'm putting too much stock, if you will, or equity into a person and their authority or their leadership title, rather than putting my stock or my enoughness, if you will, in God. And when I would put that in man, I would limit myself. And God's like, yeah, that's great. I created you this way, but I've got so much more for you. And I wish you would stop putting so much into what man is saying and what you're trying to receive from this person, and really put it more into what I'm saying and what I want to speak into your life. And there's that identity crisis. Yes, I'd say it's easy to say, God, you're enough. But oftentimes, because affirmation is something that I've just so longed for in my own life, even though I know God's enough, but I'm like, yeah, but it'd really be nice if I hear this from somebody and really paint my life or put myself in a lane to just pigeonhole that one thing to continue to get that affirmation. And I just think this is a great conversation to have, because it's so freeing to be able to receive affirmation now, but not wrap my identity around that affirmation. My identity is in Christ. And while I appreciate that and it encourages me, that gifting is not who I am. That's just one little gift that God's given me. Thank you for that affirmation. It means a lot. It encourages me, but that is not who I am. Yeah. It's a product or a fruit, something that bears off my life from a deeper root, which is my walk with the Lord as a Christ follower and as a child of God.
Each one of us are a charcuterie board. And if you just get locked on that really good piece of cheese and just keep eating that, you're missing everything else that there is to complement one another.
Yeah, because the pepperoni, And that cracker with that cheese, and then a little salami on the side.
Then you get a little bit of that
so
grape,
good.
and you got yourself a flavor explosion of assignments that
So
God
good.
has for every one of us. And that piece of cheese that you've been complimented on, that's awesome. Use that affirmation. We are here to edify each other. Walk in that, but just realize that's also just one of many assignments and many abilities that you can walk in.
And Justin, that's one of the beautiful things I love about this podcast is because it really is our hope to help people fulfill their God assignments in life. And a part of that assignment is walking in their identity in Christ, not walking in their identity in man's affirmations, receiving that, appreciating that, but truly walking in who God has called them to be.
So just be aware to not be boxed in by the parameters that a foreign voice will try to put on you with false expectation. Expectation you were never meant to carry and take further than you ever imagined. Instead, take your new tennis racket and go play, go have a great time, because you just might be a couple of years away for God to unveil his next assignment.
Ephesians 4 is a great reminder to this conversation, in that there is no greater joy or no greater assignment than when it comes to walking in the full measure of Christ.
Thank you for listening to Armchair Authentic with Rhett and Justin. All right, stop. Now, we appreciate that you are armchair baristas, and we know that you won't hesitate to give a rating and review of your favorite place to get your liquid energy, your rocket fuel, your leaded cup lightning, your battery acid, your cuppa, your bean juice, your hot stuff, your cup of joe, your Jamocha, mocha, Java. But if you would, rate and review our podcast, and it helps others learn about Armchair Authentic. All right, bring in the beat.
Hey guys, if you can't tell by now, Justin and I are having the time of our life getting to create these episodes and this content for you. In fact, we'd love for you to join in on the fun. Join us on Facebook or Instagram at Armchair Authentic or on X, Armchair Auth Pod. But more importantly, man, we would love to create some content and some podcast around some of the questions that you might be asking in life right now. The best way we can get those questions answered is if you'll email us at info@armchairauthentic.com. Again, email us your questions or the things that you're walking through and like to hear maybe what God's word says about certain things that you may be facing. Email us at info@armchairauthentic.com. We can't wait to see you on next episode, but until then, have a great day. God bless, and we will see you soon.